Welcome to another edition of On Scene with TFD. I'm Mike Bellamy, your host and the Public Information Officer for the Tallahassee Fire Department. One of the first things that come to mind when you think about firefighting is that bright red fire truck. Today's fire trucks are equipped with many new features and capabilities that are the result of many decades of adaptation and advances in technology. Today we have some special guests who will talk everything fire trucks and tell us all about how the Tallahassee Fire Department uses state-of-the-art equipment to respond to all types of emergencies. So let's introduce our guests. Lieutenant Bobby Porter, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
And Fire Engineer David Morrison, thanks for being here.
Pleasure.
All right, well, let's start out with a little introduction. Lieutenant, tell us about your current function with the fire department.
Well, right now I'm a lieutenant with the fire department. I'm currently at Station 3, which is a hazmat station. We respond to many different calls other than hazmat, but we do a lot of different functions at Station 3 as far as running medical calls. We, of course, fires, car wrecks, and I'm also part of the apparatus committee that helps put together and design some of the apparatuses that we have in the fire department.
And you were a fire engineer and,
yes,
and a firefighter along the way, right?
That's right.
Okay. All right, Dave, tell us about what you're currently doing with the fire department.
I'm a fire engineer, currently assigned to Station 4 on Appleyard Drive, Pensacola Street. I assigned to drive the aerial truck there. Station 4, we also have the technical rescue team and the urban search and rescue team.
Okay. All right. So when I think about the fire service, think about firefighting, the first thing when we're kids, I think this is where we learn it, was that big red, shiny fire truck, and it's such a important piece of the puzzle for us in terms of providing that emergency response and that emergency service. So fire trucks have been around, motorized in Tallahassee for about 80 years. So Bobby, why don't you start out and tell us a little bit about what those early trucks for the fire department may have been like?
A lot of the early trucks were built by firemen. They were military surplus. They were taken into a shop, which we had on 6th Avenue, which was the old Station 2, and they would customize it. They would put tanks and pumps and different things on it. They were slower,
okay,
definitely, and then lights and sirens and stuff to be able to respond to the fire.
And so they had mechanics in there. They had welders. They would kind of frame up. You've seen photographs of these, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of the pumps, instead of being internal, they were external. They would be on the front bumper or something like that. A little different. A little different design.
We've come a long way.
Yes, we have.
Yeah. So what's the Dave? Tell me a little bit about what the fire truck's purpose is and what type of equipment it's on.
Well, of course, the fire truck carries the hose and the water and the people to the fire. But outside of that, we've got specialized tools for handling everything from forcible entry, the jaws of life for automotive accidents when people can't get out of their car. We can come and remove the doors, roofs, and whatever to free the trapped people. Outside of that, we've got, of course, medical equipment. That's become a big part of what we do. We've got 6 engines throughout the city that are now what we call advanced life support. They've got paramedics on those engines, and they can provide basically all the same services that the ambulance does, in addition to everything else that we do with fires, car wrecks, and everything else.
And that just means one of the firefighters on that advanced life support engine is cross-trained as a paramedic. We're all cross-trained as EMTs, but there are some that are paramedics.
Correct, yes. We've got, I think, about 80 paramedics throughout the fire department at this point.
And that's an interesting point, because you always hear that about, why does the fire truck respond to the chest pain call or when I'm having a seizure, right? So
yeah, a lot of people just don't realize that nowadays those ALS engines have got basically all the same equipment, medications, and supplies as the ambulance does, except for the stretcher to transport the patient.
So all that equipment, there's medical equipment, there's mechanical equipment, there's water on the trucks. It's almost like one big toolbox, isn't it, Bobby?
That's correct. When they're designed nowadays, every space is utilized because we carry so much equipment as far as, like Dave was saying, from medical equipment to things that we use in a fire to car wrecks. So it's
all sort of engineered to all fit in the right spot, the
every
backboards.
piece.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then it has to be secure, right? I mean, the equipment has to be either strapped down or secured in some way, right?
That's right.
Now, tell me about the color, the reflective tape, the lights. Is that important? Are those things just thrown on there in any particular method, or is there a method to the madness?
No, there definitely is a method. The National Fire Protection Association, NFPA, sets guidelines for what fire apparatus must have to include everything from equipment, the lighting packages like you talked about, and the reflective tape. You'll see with the newer engines, ambulances, and even some of the Highway Patrol's cars, the green and red striping on the back, they call them chevrons. That's something that to make the apparatus more visible on scene, especially when we're blocking traffic at car wrecks and fires and things like that. But that's all, again, laid out by the NFPA's guidelines of what we need to be safe for not only ourselves but the public.
Yeah, they're doing studies so that we can actually be seen when we're responding to a incident. So not just the horns and the sirens and stuff like that, but that you can actually see a visual, because sometimes it's hard to actually hear the sirens and the horns before we get up on a vehicle. So they can see a visual in their mirrors and stuff before we get there to them. So that's why everything is regulated just to be safer.
And that applies to our firefighting gear as well, too, right?
That's correct.
So when we're out there in traffic, that's one of the most dangerous places, isn't it, for us to operate?
Yeah, we have a lot of people that, and I hate to say it, but they don't think of our safety when we're on scene. There's a lot of times that you'll see us not when we're on a car wreck. We'll have our bunker gear on, and it has reflective tape on it also, but we also wear safety vests so that we can be seen by drivers at night and during the day.
Now, tell me about these trucks. Do they weigh a tremendous amount? I'd imagine do they all carry water?
Most of them do carry water. We have a few specialty trucks that have very little water, if no water. But each one of them vary in weight. Some of them weigh 80,000 pounds. Most of the engines and stuff you'll see somewhere around 65,000 pounds when they're loaded down.
That water adds a tremendous
Oh,
amount. I mean,
absolutely.
your bathtub is what, about 30, 40 gallons? And how many are we talking about on this engine?
You're looking 500 gallons of water
Wow.
on an engine. And you also have to factor in the tools too. There's a lot of different tools that weigh a lot that we're carrying also.
Carrying on those trucks. Okay, so we're going to head to a break. Will you both stick around for another segment?
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, when we get back, I want to talk a little bit more about the training and some of the ways that we learn how to drive these big rigs down the road. All right, don't drive off. We're going to talk more fire trucks when we return on scene with TFD. Stick around.
Hey, let me help you with that there, Sparky. Sparky the dog wants to remind you that when you change your clocks, change the battery in your smoke alarms. Speaking of which, when was the last time you tested the battery in your smoke alarm? At least once a month, push the button on your smoke alarm to make sure it's working properly. Remember, test alarms for life.
Hello, I'm Mike Terhune with the Tallahassee Fire Department. Did you know the chance of fires caused by candles greatly increase during the winter months? Please take care when using candles in the home. Keep lit candles out of reach of children and pets. And remember, never leave lit candles unattended in the home. When you go out,
For more life-saving tips, visit the Fire Department's website at talgov.com.
Welcome back to On Scene with TFD. On today's show, we're talking everything fire trucks. And to help us do that, we've got Lieutenant Bobby Porter from the Tallahassee Fire Department and fire engineer David Morrison, who drives the big rigs right now. So
right.
You guys are helping us inform our viewers about these trucks, and it's an exciting topic and probably one of the things we all dreamed about doing as a kid, right? Growing up.
All kids do.
Growing up to drive the truck. So before we touch on some of the training that goes into the trucks, because that's such a important piece of all this, I want to look at some pictures, and I want to show our viewers what some of these units look like and some of the fleet at the Tallahassee Fire Department. So go ahead, guys, jump in. Tell me what we're looking at.
This is one of our new engines that we have. We've went to a different manufacturer, which is Pierce. They're out of Wisconsin instead of E1, which we were getting out of Ocala, Florida. And this is a group of guys that's going up there and they're inspecting what we've kind of designed with Pierce. And this is, like I said, it's an engine. And what this primary function for this unit is you can see that it has the medical cross up there. So it's using medical abilities to be able to do ALS. And it's also
I see that.
primary use is to pump during fire operations.
So every fire station, effectively, you're going to have this engine in it.
That's
this
correct.
frontline unit.
That's right.
Currently, we've got 2 of these on the road right now. One of them's downtown as engine 101, and the other one is at Station 4 as engine 4 at Pensacola and Appleyard. We've got a crew up in Wisconsin right now taking receipt of some more units, and should see those on the road very soon.
All right, well, let's keep moving. We got some more trucks to look at. What's this? This looks a little different.
That's Bobby's truck.
That's Bobby's.
Actually, this is a truck that's stationed on South Monroe Street. It's a ladder truck, and it's actually a little bit smaller of a ladder than the big ladder trucks. It's a 75-foot ladder. It has the capabilities that actually pump at a fire, and it actually gives you an elevated stream on different fire situations that you'll be able to fight from up above instead of just on ground level.
Okay. Let's look at the next one here.
That's the new rescue. Again, we've got 2 of these that just went out. One of them is at Station 11 out Centerville Road, and the other is at Station 13 down in Woodville. These are a quick response unit. It carries a little bit less water than our standard engine, but carries a lot of the same equipment, just in a little smaller quantity. These are real good for out in the county where we're going down maybe a little tighter road, dirt roads and things like that, and they work very well for that purpose.
Okay, and they'll accompany a huge tanker, which we'll get a look at here in a minute, that provides some of that water. Oh, this is a different looking truck.
This is an ARF unit. This is one of the units that's at our airport station. This unit is strictly for fighting aircraft. You don't see these on the road. They're a little wider, they're heavier and taller than normal trucks and stuff that's on the road, so you don't see these on the road, but that's what this does. This is actually a aircraft fighting truck.
Okay, it's got a big Pearson nozzle and some different types of extinguishing agents on board as well, so very cool. We got a couple of those at the airport and a smaller unit that's sort of similar to that. All right, what do we got here?
That's a brush truck. It's there at Station 4 also. We've got several of those strategically placed throughout the city, more on the outlying portions of the city where they can respond out to assist with the county with grass fires, wildland fires, and things like that.
Okay. Take a look at this next unit we've got.
This is an air truck that we have. This truck doesn't actually carry any water, but our air bottles that's on our backs when we go into fires, what this does, this provides a system that we can actually refill our air bottles on scene, and it provides light so that we can see during the fire and stuff. So this is kind of an important piece that we don't have to run out of air and that we can be safe while we're in a fire.
Okay.
This is the Bronto. It's a very unique truck. It's a 2002 E1. It's a 100-foot ladder. As you can see, the bucket is actually in the middle there, which is drastically different from any of our other trucks. Typically, you'd see that bucket out on the top of the ladder, which extend off the front of the unit. But this one has what we call a jib boom, which allows us to go below grade and do some technical rescues with that unit, and also functions very similar to any of the other aerials for a typical response if we needed elevated streams or rescue.
Okay.
This is a tanker truck here that we have. You usually see these out in the county. We have one that's stationed inside the city. They carry large amounts of water.
Couple 2,000-3,000 gallons.
That's
2,500 gallons of water typically.
Yeah, and what this does, this is if we go to a remote area within the city, within the county that doesn't have water supply, we use this for our water supply. Sometimes there might be a hydrant that's close to a scene that we can just hook in, but a lot of times when we go to fires, we don't have enough hose. It might be, a mile or so before there's a hydrant, so we have to have water to be able to do our operations.
Okay, and we got one more truck here. What is this?
I'll let Bobby talk about it. A hazmat unit.
This is a hazmat unit. This unit has tons of different things that we use on hazardous material situations. We respond to a lot of different events that uses just
hazard
different
mitigation.
That's right. It's not something that you typically carry on the frontline units.
Right. We got decontamination things, some absorbent, a lot of oil dry. That truck here is a tremendous amount of oil dry, right? To soak
Right,
up the
and we have
spill.
different monitors and stuff like that detect certain gas
Okay.
and elements that's
that-
harmful to us.
That's just a snapshot, of the fleet and some of the diverse units. It's pretty neat to get a chance to kind of see some of those. So, how do you prepare to operate that? What kind of training goes into it? Does any of the firefighters come right in and do that? We got a couple minutes left before the break, and let's touch on that.
No, you actually, the department has a requirement that you have to spend 3 years as a firefighter to get a little bit of experience and learn the job before you can start driving. There's an engineer's class that they put on through the department, and you go in and you learn about the different requirements. You learn about the laws. There are laws that regulate how we drive when we're in emergency response mode. So we have to train our people about what those rules are, what those laws are. You learn the difference about a vehicle with air brakes, which is drastically different than driving a regular car with hydraulic brakes. So once you take that engineer's class, then you'll be eligible for to sit for the engineer's promotional test. And folks that successfully pass the written exam will move on to a practical exam where they have to demonstrate the proficiencies that they can do the job on the fireground. And from there, then they'll be eligible for promotion to engineer.
And there's a lot to that with learning how to pump that truck, learning how to get those hose lines out. You're moving a lot of water. Requires thousands and thousands of gallons, so you're having to bring water in from a hydrant or a tanker. So there's actually a lot to that. So it's neat to kind of touch on that. So, Dave, you are leaving, I understand, after this segment. So I want to thank you for being on the show today and sharing the information. And Bobby, you're going to stick around with our guest from Fleet to talk a little bit about how we order these trucks up and design them to fit us just right. All right. When we come back after the break, we're going to talk more fire trucks and take a look at some of our new units that are coming on delivery very soon. Stick around.
I am here to save lives.
What happened?
He came from out of nowhere.
When people need help, I respond.
During a crisis, I remain calm.
She's got a head injury.
I am a 911 dispatcher, and you can be one too.
911, what's the address of your emergency?
The Consolidated Dispatch Agency has openings for public safety communications operators. Dispatchers earn nearly $30,000 a year with benefits, receive on-the-job training, and have a flexible schedule. If you want to save lives, visit talgov.com and apply today.
Hello, I'm firefighter Kathy Golke. Having smoke alarms in your home reduces the chances of you dying in a fire nearly in half. Install smoke alarms in your home and test the batteries each spring and fall. For more life-saving tips, visit the fire department's website at talgov.com.
Hello, I'm Captain Leroy James. More fires start in the kitchen than any other place in the home, and cooking fires are our #1 cause of home fire and home fire injuries. Keep a fire extinguisher handy. Don't be afraid to use it. For more life-saving tips, visit the fire department's website at talgov.com.
The Tally Parks app, a free app from the city of Tallahassee, is available for download. With the app, you can search by trail marker, scan QR codes on trails to find locations, and find features like basketball courts or playgrounds. The Tally Parks app is free in the Google Play Store and in the Apple App Store. The Tally Parks app is a great app for discovering the best parks in America. Unlike other map services, it helps you find all the parks and trails, plus the hidden gems that make Tallahassee unique.
Welcome back to On Scene with TFD. Today's show is all about fire trucks. So let's introduce one of our new guests that knows quite a bit about fire trucks. That's Steve Bullock from the Fleet Division at City of Tallahassee. Thanks for being on.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
And of course, Lieutenant Bobby Porter, you're sticking around for another segment. I appreciate that.
Thanks.
All right, so you have a special function that you relate with fire trucks and the fire service. So tell us about what you do at Fleet.
Well, at Fleet with the fire trucks, you know, when we get them in from the manufacturers, we prep them, set them up how the firefighters, you know, where they want certain tools and certain holders for different things, and just go through and make sure that everything is operational and up to code and everything for the firefighter when we release the unit to the station.
So the Fleet Division, though, you're not just working with fire trucks. You're working with trucks from all departments, correct?
Yes, sir. Currently we have about 2,300 vehicles citywide that we maintain and maintenance of. Anything, you know, all kinds of machines and all the way up to the fire trucks and bucket trucks with the electric department. We have roughly about 113 pieces of machinery or vehicles with the fire department, and 66 of those are firefighting apparatuses.
Okay, so do you, do these fire trucks, when they come into service, they've got to go through, I guess like my personal vehicle, I've got to have an oil change, you know, preventative maintenance. Tell us about what that's like for the fire trucks.
Yes, sir. On the fire trucks, you know, we have different scheduling of the PMs, preventive maintenance. Sometimes they just come in for oil change, then others, you know, more hours they build up. We have to do pump checks and oil changes on pumps and differentials and so on and so forth. We have to do pump tests to make sure they make the requirements of the NFPA. Just all kind of different things that has to be done to the trucks to make sure they're up to standards and safe for our operators and for our civilians.
Now, Bobby, tell me about the synergy. You know, you're on a committee that works to develop the fire trucks, and you were telling me a story in the break about your son. Your son has helped you out recently, spec out a fire truck.
Yes, recently some of the new apparatuses that we're getting, I went up to Wisconsin with some members of Fleet and some other members with the fire department. When he found out that I was going, he gave me a list of things that he wanted to see on the fire truck. So it's funny. He's one of these kids that is pretty into it. So
yeah, well, I mean, what kid's not?
That's right. So he gave me a list, and we got up there, and he gave me 12 items that he wanted to see on the fire trucks, and from lights to different sirens and horns.
And
he's
a teenager, right?
He's a teenager.
Yeah.
And after we were going through the list in Wisconsin with the representatives from Pierce and everything, I said, okay, well, that's my son's list. And they kind of laughed and says, "Your son?" I said, "Yeah, that was a 14-year-old kid that just designed that fire truck a little bit."
Up,
so he got 8 out of the 12 items. So he's
got a future in the.
He does. I think they wanted to hire him up there too.
There you go. So when we look at the trucks and we're designing the trucks, why is it important to bring firefighters, fire engineers that drive the trucks and Fleet together? Why is that important?
Well, as far as each individual that will ride that fire truck, they have different functions. We want to know, is it easy, is it safe, as how a firefighter pulls a hose off the back or off the sides. We want to know information from the driver or the engineer, that's how the pump operates, what's some of the safety features that he likes, what's some of the things that he doesn't like, what's some of the things that makes the job easier, makes it safer for not only for the people that's operating on scene, but the people that we're trying to help too.
Right, and there's some new technology that's coming down with GPS. We have backup cameras on the trucks, technology that changes the traffic lights. I think these new trucks I was hearing are meet a new EPA standard. They're very low emission, almost no emission.
Better for the environment.
Right, so it's all of those things are being kind of packaged up as well. Well, let's take a look at some pictures real quick from the plant up in Wisconsin you were talking about with Pierce. This is actually, tell me what we're looking at. This is a new truck, isn't it?
That right there is going to be the base, the bottom part, lower part of the cab right there, where the actual operator and the seats will bolt on top of that, and then they'll build the cab up around it and everything right there.
Okay. What's this?
That there will be your valve that sits on top of your pump that directs, whether you're drafting or if you're pumping or if you want to go to a different, a different hose or so on and so forth.
So this is that pump that the fire pump that connects to the drive of the
That's the actual valve.
That's the valve. Okay.
Disputes where the water goes.
Okay. Okay. And that connects to the pump. All right. What's this?
And that's a stripped down cab ready to be painted and put on a chassis and all the safety equipment and everything installed on the inside and out. And there it is after it's painted and going down the production line. That there's a pump and the valve and all, that we just talked about and saw, the valve sitting up there on top of the pump.
This is something that you have to be trained on at Fleet, right, to work on?
Yes, sir. We actually go to the manufacturer up to Pearson, Wisconsin to get training on the different functions and operations, and then of course the NFPA standards that the pump has to meet.
Okay. All right, and this looks ready for delivery almost, doesn't it?
Almost. We're missing some decals on there and should be ready to come to Tallahassee.
Okay, fantastic. And all right, so we take delivery of these vehicles, the paint schemes. We look at the way we talked about the reflective tape and these different types of things that are industry standards and things like that. Steve, what's the lifespan of that truck?
It averages, most of the time it's 10 years or 10,000 hours, depending upon certain criterias of the truck. If they get that many hours, we'll put them as a reserve or we'll surplus the vehicle.
Okay. Bobby, what's that like for us, using these trucks when they come in and surplus them out, moving them to reserve units and so?
What happens is if one of the units has to go get PM, like you said, your oil change, as a reserve unit, we have a place out at Appleyard where we keep all of our units for reserves, so that a station doesn't go down. That new truck or the truck that you're in, apparatus, will go to the fleet division. It'll have its preventive maintenance. It might need tires. It might need, batteries changed out, oil changed. There might be something that's wrong mechanically with it that needs to be fixed. But what that does is allow us to have another unit that we can get into and be able to serve the city of Tallahassee.
Right. These trucks, these trucks never, these stations or these communities never go without. I mean, we always have a replacement going in.
We're open 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. So
365.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And Fleet, they do an incredible job. They come out to the fire stations and do service at the fire stations a lot of time. You guys have a rig that I guess can do a limited amount of work out in the field, right?
Yes, sir. There's 3 of us. We've got myself and 2 others that we go around the fire stations and, fix what we can fix there without a limited downtime to where, if the guys do get a call, they can go ahead and leave out of the station with the truck. But if it's a major repair, it'll have to come to the shop.
Anything else we need to add before we wrap up?
Stay safe out there.
Yes, I mean, these trucks, you got to get out of the way of them. That's something
right.
that we see when we drive is, you need to pull off to the right there when you see that vehicle come and let emergency vehicle come through. So, well, I want to thank both of you for being here today.
Thanks
Steve
for
from Fleet, you guys do tremendous work. I want to thank you for that. And Lieutenant, appreciate your help on the committee and keeping these trucks coming and equipped to keep the community safe out there. So. That's all the time we have for today's show. Thanks for tuning in to On Scene with TFD. We'll see you next time. Stay safe.